One farmer says, seems to me there was a tea party in Boston that was illegal too.
I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold.
We shall seek to establish and maintain a dollar which will not change its purchasing and debt-paying power during the succeeding generation.
As anguished shrieks rose up from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange.
Government credit and government currency are really one and the same thing. A reserve of gold and a small reserve of silver.
So, and I said, well, what if it does happen? And he says, well, price will solve everything. I said, thanks, give me the gold. You know?
Why do central banks hold it? Well, it's a form of reserves. So why don't they hold diamonds? Well, it's tradition, long-term tradition.
Well, some people still think it's money.
Good evening. Welcome back to the Junius Malpe channel. The extemporaneous ramblings of a madman, broadcast live and unscripted here on the most boring channel on YouTube. Glad you could join me for another historic day, another historic evening. I planned on having dinner. I put it off, postponed it. Me and Mrs. Malpe are going to have some clam chowder and sourdough bread when this video's over. But I had to come in because I was discussing things with friends. I wanted to check on the open, the Asian markets, which usually don't move too much, right? They're typically kind of slow. And lo and behold, ladies and gentlemen, gold hit a high in U.S. dollars of $2,147.40, 2147. Now that's historic. That's historic. We'll check in on the price in a moment. We will see where it's at currently, how it's still moving. It'll be interesting to see what it does tomorrow, Monday morning, here in the United States and Wall Street's Western trading. But 2147.40. And again, the Asian market, which usually doesn't move too much, a little slower paced, sometimes even disappointing, the activity when it comes to all the news and noise about them buying gold. Their price doesn't seem to tick away too much when they're gobbling it up. But real quick, welcome all of my channel member friends, those of you with a coin after your name. I see all of you, and even a few of you that are Patreon members. I got Bill Spencer in the chat. Good to see a friend. JJ Stackins here. Good to see you. Whiskey Tower. And look at you guys. You all have the gold coin after your name. It means you've been here for a while. James Richter, good to see you, old friend. Hey, all right, my notifications are working again. Yes, you're not in Shadowban land yet. Ray Finkel, welcome. He says saw gold at 2143 at 6:38 p.m. tonight. Yes, good evening, Ann Cat. That was her coming in saying hello. Shuffle Silver, welcome, friend. Mad Hatter, good to see you. Lee the Baptist, welcome to Ann Cat's Pillar Dollars. Phil Suttle, Paul S. Who else we got? And we got James Richter with a super chat. Thank you, friend. You haven't seen anything yet. You're right, man. You haven't seen anything. It's only beginning. Rolf Steiner's here. Good to see you, friend. Welcome. Always good friend of the channel. One of the wise ones. Chinese markets are open and dumping U.S. bonds for physical gold this morning, says Rolf. Exactly. Chinese markets are open and they're dumping their bonds. Nobody wants the bonds. We'll check in. Let's see what the 10-year treasuries. We'll see what those are going for. But let's real quick go check in on the gold price. This is stuff we've talked about for a long time. This is nothing new. This is nothing unexpected. The other day when we tuned in, we almost timed it perfectly. The all-time high was, 2074 and some change. We breached that. We saw it in continuous contracts well above that. We'll check in on the continuous contract prices in a moment. But currently we're at $2,093.02. Silver looks like it came back a little bit. It was $26 when I checked on CNBC. We'll go real quick, see their prices. $25.97. They've got gold quoted at, let me get that adjusted for you guys to see it. I gotta get that. I gotta do my own engineering here. I don't have a studio. Remember, I'm a peasant. I am but a wee peasant like you all. I've got broken equipment here. Gold, 21.10, 21.11. It's moving quick. Can't even get the price right. The price is wrong. Silver, $25.99. Come on, silver. Come on. Do something. Move a little bit. Poke it. I mean, it's silver's. I think silver's going to surprise us though. For a lot of this year, it's been outpacing gold with its daily moves, percentage-wise. But lately, gold's really taken the spotlight and it's screaming. I mean, look at copper just hanging out, just a tick under $4 a pound. Platinum, palladium, I don't care. I don't care. You know my feelings on that. I avoid them. I don't own any platinum or palladium. They're cool. Hey, they've got their uses and applications, but I'm not interested. Checking the bonds real quick. U.S. 10-year, it's 4.25. 4.25. Yeah, they're dumping. Everyone's dumping. This is all part of the delay. Again, we've been looking at this people want instant gratification, and I think a lot of times even stackers get caught up with the behavior of, they want those results now, and they're not patient. They don't realize that wealth is the flow of the capital and the money from the impatient to the patient. They sell their positions, they quit, they get out. It doesn't happen fast enough. And I think generationally it's getting worse. Each generation is less patient perhaps than the one before that. They don't understand it. And the timing of all of this, has always been much more delayed than you and I think, fully understand. Even myself, sometimes I just don't get it. Why metals are delayed. But in reading and people that know far more than I do, and I've reported this on this channel numerous times and different quotes, different articles, and different experts that know more than us, because again, I'm just passing the information on. I'm just a medium in which it passes through. And a lot of times you'll find out that it's a lot of the effects of inflation are quite delayed. I mean, some of the inflationary effects we're seeing right now are due to monetary policies, an expansion of the money supply from over 2 years ago. Major delays, lots of manipulation, lots of things that take place behind closed doors and in the shadow world that are beyond our understanding by powers that are not elected. Huge banks all over the world making phone calls multiple times a day, moving things around, the paper markets, the COMEX. I was having a conversation on the COMEX just last night with a friend, and we were talking about our good friend here on the channel. You know the clip. Thanks, give me the gold. On how the COMEX typically only has about 2% of their gold, something like 2% deliverable, ready to be delivered, 2 to 3%. So they don't have it. It's all paper, and they think price is going to solve everything if there's ever a run, if there's ever a demand for physical delivery. And I think you and I are of the understanding that's not going to happen. It's going to break, and when it does, it's going to slingshot the price in a direction that the COMEX didn't anticipate. There's going to be failed deliveries, which is going to probably cause some panic in those metals markets and cause the metal prices to react even further and even with more energy, more velocity, more upward momentum. We got a super chat from Russ Jordan. He says, for gold to be at the all-time high adjusted for inflation, it has to reach about $2,987. That's how much money it took a dump since the 1980 $800 high. Russ, I just looked that up the other day. You are correct in a way. It's actually worse than that. I think it's 3,000. Let me find it for you if I can. It's probably buried in one of my discussions with some friends just recently. We were actually discussing that very fact. I'll look it up for you real quick. It's actually it's in the 3,000 range. I think 3,200, 3,300, I think maybe 3,347. You can Google it. Someone can Google it. There's different numbers and quotes out there. And then again, it depends upon, what inflation numbers you accept as real. There's the pre-1983 numbers. There's the 1990 numbers. They've adjusted the CPI and the way inflation works numerous times. Let's just call it 2,900 to 3,300, somewhere in that range, 3,400. In that range, yes. Gold would have to break that to breach the all-time $800 high. But again, I fail to meet anybody who is sitting on gold that bought it that high. Most people were buying long before that 800. I have met and read people that have bought gold, believe it or not, right when it became legal. You're talking in that 40s plus 42.50 range. They were buying gold for like $42.50 an ounce, Krugerrands, back in the 70s. One of the economists I used to read when I was younger, and I've reported and read their stuff on this channel in the past, the name is not in my old brain at this moment, but he was buying British sovereigns for $15 a pop. British sovereigns, $15 a pop. So that gives you an idea where gold's come. Now, a lot of people you think of those prices: $15 for a sovereign, $42.50 or $50 for a Krugerrand. It's pretty intense, right? Those guys were pretty smart. I even if they bought some gold at 800, which I don't think very many people did. It was very brief. That spike was so brief. That's why when that little candle wick gets quoted all the time, it's boring. It's a boring conversation to have. It's the one thing the gold bears will always bring into it. You can almost set a timer when you have a conversation with a gold bear on when they're going to bring up the $800 inflation adjusted high. And I'm glad you brought it up. I really am, because that's something I wanted to touch on today, was the inflation adjusted high, that we're not there yet. We're not at that historic inflation adjusted high. But if you look at the dollar cost average, the DCA, if you will, if you look at that, most of you and most people are absolutely easily in the green with gold. You look down here. I mean, we've shared this chart numerous times. Just look at the left side. Look at the dollar right here, this column. You look at these green percentage gains, how many years, and I've got other ones. I've got another one up here somewhere on my chart. The 100, here it is, 100-year gold prices, 100-year gold prices, right here. I'll pull that one up. Here's your 100-year gold prices. I believe this is, I can go to inflation adjusted right here. Let's go to 30 years, all years. Here you go. There's your 1980. Let's see what they're quoting it at, right? 2590. Right up here. Yeah, they're saying 2590. I'm not buying that though. I think it's you know, what I've read is 3470 the other day. I just read that the other day. I know I did. Let's take off inflation adjusted though, you know, just based on the dollar look at this chart. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, just, you know, it just doesn't go down. It just doesn't go down. It doesn't. Anyone who's bought it is essentially in the green as far as dollars goes. Now, whether or not what those dollars buy, that's another conversation, and you understand that. But you look at this chart, these price changes here, the annual percent change on this column, how much gold moves per year, up or down. In the green, obviously being positive, far outnumber the red. Absolutely. And you've got some pretty heavy-duty green years. I mean, look at back in the 70s, it was killing it. You know, 73%, 67%. Now, of course, you had some correction years, 25% and 4, but still green, still up, right? The price is still higher. And then you get up into the 80s here, you know, close to them, late 70s, 20, 30, 133% in 79, 12.5% in 1980, fell 32%, 81, up again 12%, 82, down 14%, 83, down 19%, 84. But then you start ticking up again, make up for all those losses. A couple more red years, 88 to the 92 range, 17.35% in 93. But look at this. You come up here, and all of a sudden, right around the year 2000, it's like the last dip. 6%, then it's up 1%, 24%, 22%, almost 5%, 17%, 24%, 31%, 3.5%, 27%, we'll call it 28% there, 27.6%. 28%, 11.6%, 5.6%, you know, down 27%, wiped out just one of those years, that's fine. 2014 flat, you guys were here. We were talking on this in this age. 2015, down 11.5%. Good buying year. See, a lot of people were gobbling stuff up back in these years too. A lot of you were stacking. And then 8 up, 12.5, 18, 24. And this year we're sitting up around 9.7% currently. That's according to the macro trends net page. But when you look at the 20-year and the 30-year charts, strong, absolutely strong. Gold's still making up for it. And again, if you zoom way out, and this could be nothing. This could be a blip. You could zoom out, and these numbers could all be dwarfed. And I think, honestly, that there's coming a point where that will happen. That will occur at some stage. Back to the live prices. Again, we're $2,091. Of course, we've celebrated these things before. We've seen big. We've watched gold breach 2,000 twice before this, if I'm not mistaken. Right? Would you say twice? I don't memorize these facts. I really don't. I believe if we go back to the last 10 years. I believe we clipped it. We clipped it about twice before this. Just barely. Just daily daily closes, right? And they corrected almost within 48 hours, oftentimes. But here we are. We are healthy now above. It's never been this far above the 2,000 mark. And I knew at some stage, at some point, I told you this, we were going to see a day where we crossed the 2,000 line, and it was going to be just like those days where it was crossing the 1,000 or the 1,100 range. It just wasn't going to go back. There was going to be intense buying pressure. There was going to be large gold contracts ordered for delivery. The dollar weakness would get to a point where there would just be no faking it anymore, no making up for it. The leper with the most fingers left was going to pretty soon have no fingers left. The dollar eventually, we know this, it's got one destination. It's dug its own grave, it's tucking itself in, it's laying down, it's going to sleep. Somebody just needs to walk up and give it the final coup de grace. The dollar's done, man. They can change the name of it. This was another conversation I had this week with a friend. Like, the dollar it's not going to exist as it exists now. Obviously, the deals, the structure, the way banks are using it and organizing around it with the arrangements with the BRICS nations. Rolf Steiner in the chat's very familiar with this. The Belt Road Initiative, all of the pipelines, the railroads, the deals, the commodity exchange and the currency deals between all of those BRICS nations. Even just China and Russia alone, India, Brazil, the Saudis, the African states, all of these things that are taking place in South America, they're interconnected. They are arranging their pieces in their economies, dumping their U.S. treasuries, gobbling up gold. I mean, for the last decade, we have put out video after video after video discussing and showcasing this country buying gold, this country asking for delivery, Germany repatriating its gold back. Look how many times did we cover articles on nations repatriating gold, ordering it back to their, you call it homeland, fatherland, motherland, back to their nation, saying, hey, we don't want to keep our gold in your vaults anymore. Send it back. And of course, there was delays. There was of course paperwork problems. Oh, it's going to take 2 years. Really, in this day and age, with fast boats and ships and security and container vessels, and really, it's going to take 2 years. I remember a couple of years ago, Mrs. Maltby, for Christmas, I ordered her a Fabergé, it was a fake one, not a real expensive one, It's on eBay. But it was a Fabergé egg from Russia. I got her a Fabergé egg because she loves those. She thinks they're beautiful. She's really into them. And I got her a little one. It wasn't expensive, I didn't have to eat cat food that month. But it came within, 2 weeks. And that's doing eBay difficulties and customs and all that. You mean to tell me the nation of Germany, they can't call the United States, we would like to have our gold back. We want all of our gold back immediately. You Americans cannot be trusted with our gold. The Americans, what are they going to do? Oh, no, we can't do that. It's going to take a bit. Take a little while to arrange it. I'm going to have to go find it. I don't know where it is. I think it's in a vault somewhere. What was your name again? We don't quite frankly know where it might be. I think it should be a little bit more organized than that. But then again, the COMEX isn't very organized when it comes to their accounting of where their gold bars are for major institutions and hedge funds. We've heard about that. So, point is, for the last over a decade, we've seen a tremendous shift in international sentiment towards the dollar being less favorable and towards gold more favorable. Now, I don't care what your typical, booger-eating, window-licking American who runs a fantasy football team thinks, honestly. I don't value their opinion or their assessment. It serves no purpose here. It's not a conversation that I'm willing to engage in. They're just not on the same level as us. They're not on the same footing. They're not of the same understanding. They can barely read. So their opinion on whether or not the dollar has a future, whether or not the dollar has purchasing power or value, or that it's going to be more, that it's going to even exist in 10 years, or that the actions of other nation states, the policies of other nations towards the dollar, whether or not it's valid or to be respected or honored, any of that, their opinion on any of it just plain doesn't matter. These people don't understand history. They couldn't name 3 key dates outside of this decade. there's no reason for you, when you're engaging in conversations about precious metals with family or friends, to ever be questioned on your assessment of this. You have a better understanding. And I would say don't even frustrate yourselves on it, on the conversation. I've essentially, other than talking to you here in the chat and on this channel, I don't talk to too many people about gold anymore, other than a few friends that stack it, and they're very, very rare, very rare. Most people, you just can't. It's too broad a topic. There's too much background. There's too many other pieces to it. It's not just, hey, gold's going to go up, and this is why. It's much bigger than that. It's much deeper than that, right? Gets back to that thing we used to talk about here on the channel, the ideology of stacking, the ideology of precious metals, because it truly is. It's an adherence to an ideology. It's an understanding of the way things are and the way things will soon be, the way things move, the way things connect, the way these pieces all fit together. And these nations that we're looking around at, and the way the world's shifting and moving today, they're looking at the dollar far less favorably than ever before. And it's a worsening position by the hour. Eventually, something's going to give, something's going to break. And they're looking at gold, rightfully so, as humans have viewed it for the last 10,000 years. The ultimate extinguisher of debt. The monetary unit of all monetary units. The ultimate in settlement. It is the single greatest unit of account in the world. Ever. And ever will be. It cannot be destroyed or extinguished. It just exists. They dig it up in every single continent. In the most ancient of ruins. Clutched in the fists of skeletons. Buried in tombs. Hid away in chests and caverns and caves. Sunk in the hulls of ships. Brought to the surface in an immaculate, perfect condition still. It's been traded and shipped for 70 or 80 centuries straight. In every culture, on every continent. JC 1701, oh my goodness, my friend, thank you for the generous super chat, my friend. Always good to see you on the channel, and thank you for your support all the time. If you don't hold it, you don't own it. Junius, are you planning on bringing the P.O. Box back? No, JC, I'm not. You can email me for different arrangements. It's just not something I like to do, the P.O. Box. I'm just not into it. But, post office too, they want to, just different. Nah, it's not there anymore, but I appreciate the sentiment, my friend. Thank you for the generosity and the kindness. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the dollar's days are numbered. The opinion, again, of your average American doesn't matter. It really, that's the best part about it. It doesn't matter. They can jump up and down. They can make all the noise they want. The people that were sitting on the Titanic, they didn't want it to sink. That didn't change the circumstances. The sentiment of 100% of the people on that boat didn't matter. They could have all taken a vote. I vote that we don't sink. I second the amendment. I second it that we don't sink. All in favor of not sinking in the North Atlantic on this chilly evening, say aye. Everyone would have said aye. But guess what? The Titanic would have still sunk to the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean that night. See, there's times where opinions, your view, what you desire, what you wish for, what you believe, it just doesn't matter. It doesn't hold weight, doesn't hold water. Even if that water is 28 degrees and it's still a liquid. Liquid ice. It doesn't matter. You're going to plunge into it, you'll be dead soon. It just doesn't matter. And the dollar is the currency Titanic. Everybody on board the USS Dollar is going down with it. And their vote, their opinion, the noise they make, the instruments they play, the propaganda they spew and vomit onto your screen as they pump that septic sewage through the cable networks into your living room and dump that refuse onto your floor. It doesn't matter how hard and how desperate they try. There's no propaganda, no opinion, no noise that's going to shift the sentiment or change it. You're outvoted, you're outnumbered. And the fact is, the economic laws and rules that govern this part of the galaxy dictate, this is it probably, at some point. At some point, there will be this continuum we are on shows us that the valuations of gold in dollars will continue to go in one direction, and the ability of the dollar, the purchasing power of the dollar, will continue to go in the opposite direction, being downward. It's just the way it's going to work. It's the way it's going to play out. And again, it's like that allegory, an analogy, or whatever you want to call it, that we talked about before. It's a game of musical chairs. At some point, when the music stops, people are going to wish they had a chair to sit in. A lot of the people that are, again, not to pick on them, but they kind of deserve it, I guess. The ones that are managing their fantasy leagues, and the ones that are watching reality TV and keeping up with the Kardashians and reading People magazine and just, staggering through Target, buying demonic clothing for their child, or whatever else they're doing, supporting the current thing. Maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe they're just supporting the current thing. They're just jumping up and down. They're changing their little image on their social media to update their status that they're supporting things, whatever that thing might be that day. It won't matter. Those people they already don't own metal. They're not going to own metal. They don't plan to own metal. They don't trust it. They don't get it. It hasn't clicked. But other nations do and have. Other large population groups do and have. And since when has anything shifted on the whims of the masses of the peasants that are out there when it comes to things of this matter? It just doesn't. They'll eat what they're given. Let them eat cake. If the empire bestows upon them bronze coins, they'll spend them, they'll use them. Whatever they give them, they'll give them. But the emperors and the kings and the lords and the barons, the rulers and the elites, you see, you can criticize them quite a bit. You can take a lot away from them. You can detract from them. A lot of them are pedophiles and evil, debauched degenerates, disgusting humans. But some of them are actually somewhat intelligent. You see, there's not really a connection between intelligence and morality sometimes. Sometimes these people are highly intelligent but highly immoral, even evil. But they get it. And that's why the select few own so much of the precious metals, and why they try to corner it and stack it and have it. That's why the central banks hold 19% of above ground gold ever mined since the beginning of time, because they see this direction. All of these banks are gobbling up gold. There's massive shifts in sentiment taking place. We've been watching it for the trends of this have been playing out slowly behind the scenes on weird little websites, in strange little articles written by a handful of contrarian economists, guys who are screaming like Peter Schiff. But the overall populations have never paid attention to it. They don't see it. Mrs. Maltby is frantically cleaning. That's Mrs. Maltby frantically cleaning, ladies and gentlemen.
My hip is not
Pray for me.
better, so I wanna...
And her hip hurts. She's being patient. She's like, yeah, go talk to your friends on the Junius Maltby channel, and I'll finish cleaning. I did help her, by the way. I did. I cleaned one of the bathrooms. I did some granite. I dusted a lot of things. Today was a cleaning day. It was a cleaning Sunday, and so. But now she's doing part of the floors, while I hang out with all of you. But you get the picture. I think most of you understand where this is going. You've seen the value. We've talked about these things for so long now. It's almost like, how much more can you discuss and have a dialogue on this? We see where it's going. We've watched it. Every single clue has led to this. Every repatriation of gold from one nation to another. Every central bank. We used to Google that. We used to search for it. We used to find the articles. We used to report on this central bank bought gold, this central bank. And sometimes it was only a few tons. It was a small nation somewhere, a humble country. But hey, bless their heart. Bless them for buying several tons of gold. Some nations bought hundreds of tons of gold. The point was, central banks were buying. Central banks were net buyers of gold. There was a massive shift in that behavior over the last decade. And then what did we see? What was it, around 2019? The wealthy, the elite, the private, they started privately vaulting gold, taking delivery, physically removing it. Not just holding it in paper, not just having numbers in an account somewhere. They were taking delivery of physical bullion.
Wasn't there like a mystery guy who bought a ton of of it and nobody knew who it was, or was that a crypto thing?
There was a mystery guy that bought a lot of gold. We did report on that, and I don't remember what story that was, but it was in the last year or so,
It was like
or two.
A lot of gold. And it was
There was it was the last year or so. There was a gentleman that bought, but he was unreported. Yeah, we don't know exactly who it was. And on top of that, there was the Ohio Police and Fire Fund. We did a story on that. Remember that they bought they put 12% of their entire pension system, billions of or whatever of dollars, into gold. And when we talked about that story, just on a major pension system here in the United States, shifting towards gold, having a large position in gold to protect themselves, which was a brilliant move, by the way. One of the key takeaways, key facts from that article was there's not enough metal for there's no way that any of the other pensions could do this. Just a handful would gobble it all up. It couldn't happen. There's no way that every pension could take positions in gold. Now, most pensions are run by nincompoops, and that's not going to happen anyway. It's Ohio Police and Fire, they don't have any competition there because most people that run pensions aren't going to take positions in gold. Unfortunately for the pension holders. It'd be good if they did. It would be brilliant if you're going to collect a pension or you have a pension or you know of anyone who is. It would be good to contact those that disperse the pension dollars or invest and manage it to take a very close look at positioning some of its holdings in gold if you want to preserve it and keep it strong and keep it healthy in any way whatsoever. That would be a brilliant move. And the Ohio Police and Fire guys, they did. DB, thanks for the super chat, my good friend. He goes, what will the opening price for gold be on the other side of a banking cyber attack? World Economic Forum, WEF, says it's coming in 2024, 2025. Can't delete the stack. That's just another little factor, DB, that could absolutely cause gold to do even further moves upward. It would be tremendous, I think. The more doubt that the system is exposed to, the more people that see that the emperor has no clothes, that the system's breaking down, that the empire is crumbling, that it's just not functioning the way it's supposed to, that the debt is unserviceable, that the deficits are just increasing at a pace that is mathematically impossible to address. When they realize how diseased this economic model now is, how much it's been looted, how much the treasury is empty. Once that sentiment shifts, like we saw with the nation states and the other governments, once it moves to where the people realize it, the masses that we've talked about, that's when there will be an issue. And we already know where that leads and what takes place. That's when it gets to a point. It doesn't matter what the price is. You're not going to be able to physically obtain it. It'll be out of stock. The inventory with most bullion dealers is quite low. They barely can meet the demands of just a very, very, very finite percentage of the population. You increase that to just, put it this way, if just 1% more of the population of just the United States today woke up, if just 1% more of the population said, you know what, we want metals too. If just 1% of the people that don't have them decided to go get them, it would create a significant supply side issue and a massive movement, I believe, in price. Because that's how small the market truly, really is, on the retail side anyway. And if that was happening, you can bet your stack that the boys in Wall Street snorting coke off their desk, eating $50,000 lunches, robbing pensioners and old ladies, ripping people off, packaging horrible equities, making bad deals, buying things like Peloton, you know what I'm talking about. Those guys, the Wolf of Wall Street types, with a phone in each ear screaming, those guys will have already made moves, big moves into metals. Once they see it, that's the biggest part. Once Wall Street starts making the shift and the move over, they'll unleash all the money into it. The price will be unobtainable. That's when it'll start marching. Schiff's he predicted this just the other day, so give him the credit. If it broke the 2100 mark, he thinks we're going to start seeing triple-digit days, 2,100, then it'll be 22, 23. You might see $200 moves, $300 moves in a day. but you might start seeing $100 days on gold. You're not going to catch that. You're not going to. The ability of the population to absorb that is just, I don't think it's going to be very possible, honestly. I think it's going to be quite difficult. And I think we'll see moves that are like nothing we've ever witnessed before when it comes to this. We're at 2088, but again, we are above the all-time highs. We are above the all-time high right now, currently. 2088 and climbing. What is the continuous contract on Barron's is still 2105. It was 2112. So there has been a little bit of a breath, a little bit of a sell-off, a little bit of steam loss, but it's still cooking. We're still cooking. It's still up 1660, up just 0.79%. And think of that. Once its value increases even more so, the percentage moves, even if they're small, are going to represent significant dollars. So just to put that into perspective right now, right? What do we got gold at? The quote price here is 0.8%, and it's at 2088. It's up $16. That's what that represents, $17. But let's say gold is sitting at, just to take that into consideration, let's say gold's sitting at $3,000 an ounce. And you multiply that times 0.82%, right? 3,000 times decimal, 3,000 times decimal, 0.082 equals. That's a $24.60 move. Just so it'll start. Right now, it's only representing about $17. It could represent $24.60 then. For easy math, you start looking at the 1% moves. You start looking at $30 moves a day. Just if it moves a percent, moves 2%, that could be $60 a day. You start looking at 8%, 6% moves or 10% moves on a year. If you look at the average price moves for gold, you're looking at 2023. It's moved 13% this year so far. 13% down here. This is just some interesting numbers to consider. If you start a year at $2,500, let's say we start next year at that, and it does a 13% move, that's $325 per ounce that it's going to move that year. So then you're looking at $2,825, $2,800 gold. So even small percentage point moves, as gold increases in price and as the dollar weakens, are going to represent much higher dollar amounts in movement, much bigger price swings. And unfortunately, the population suffering from inflation, crippled with increasing prices on food and energy and gasoline, low wages, stagnant wages, impending recessions, falling equity prices, even potentially coming up very soon, falling housing prices with people being underwater that bought homes. There's going to be a tightening and a squeeze where there's not going to be a whole lot of expendable currency. There's not going to be a whole lot of money available for people to put towards gold. How many people can go out and buy an ounce of gold? $2,000 right now. Most Americans can't come up with $400. Most can't rub two nickels together. Again, this market's not about them. It's not about them. If you're in, you're early, or you're on. You were way early, and you're the next. You've done very well. There's a lot of people that are just not going to be able to make these positions, these moves, and again, protect yourself, protect your loved ones. And gold is not the only issue. It's not the only topic. It's not the only thing we should talk about or look at as far as preparing for a world in which $10,000 gold exists. There's going to be other problems: fresh water, food, defense mechanisms, lead, brass, things like that. All of those necessary preparations. But I would advise you to consider your security, your alternative preparations, where you live, where are you located, what are the demographics like, what's the crime like around you, what kind of security measures do you have set around your property, your home, situational readiness, that kind of thing. Being observant, having your head on a swivel, always being prepared for what's coming, what's around you. Those are the other topics we like to talk about sometimes. But let's see here. 2106. One thing, I did pull these up earlier. I did pull these up earlier for a very significant reason, because we took flack on this channel for years discussing inflation, and people saying that it wasn't going to exist. There was debates between even political pundits, news cycle, all those things you'd see out there, different opinions on inflation, and of course we knew it. You saw it. We knew. We all saw that. No matter what they said, it wasn't transitory. We called that immediately. We knew they were lying. So again, these people always lie to you. They're always lying. So you can never believe anything they say. We knew that it was inevitable that we would see the dollar become even weaker, and that weakness would become increasingly weaker. That eventually they would lose control over it, like in Chapter 28 of Dying of Money. That the inflationary effects of the expansion of the money supply would be uncatchable. It would be like, the cat's out of the bag. The horse left the barn. And of course, that's what we're seeing that take place now. We're seeing headlines discussing dollar weakness. We've talked about the international sentiment towards the dollar. Gold firming on dollar dip. It's starting to make that news. The Fed not really knowing what to do. Again, they're stuck in a very tight place, I believe. I don't think that old J. Powell is fully equipped with the faculties and the acumen to steer anybody or anything out of this. Either he's completely inept and incompetent, anemic and weak, and ignorant of what was happening and what was going to be caused by his policies and actions. Because again, there's names attached to all of this. There's people that did this. This doesn't just happen. There were policies, there were votes, there were decisions made at very high levels of the state and government that brought this about. Now, these individuals all have names. There's people who are directly responsible for the economic condition and state you find yourself in now currently. And they lied. They lied to people. They'll never go to jail for it. The damage that they cause in human lives, the damage they wrought, there will never be justice. There never is. There is no justice. The justice is not served anymore. It doesn't exist. It's a dead idea. So you can't trust them anymore. They don't know how to get out of this. Gold price hits 7-month high. Dollar weakness and inflation concerns. And that's going to continue. It's going to continue. There's going to be talk of raising or lowering rates when everything gets tight. But even Powell said the other day, that's most likely, that's too early. We can't talk about that yet. That's not going to happen. We're probably not going to be lowering rates anytime soon. If anything, there's a chance they're going to raise them again. That's going to cause some issues. The economy's probably going to get a little more tight, a little harder on some people. But that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That's it for tonight's conversation. I hope I might be able to see you tomorrow. I'm not sure. As we log off here, we're sitting at gold at $2,088. We were high at $2,100 earlier. 2112. I believe the high was 2147. So someone out there said 2150. 2150 was a high. So I'm not sure if that was what site quoted that. But again, it's either way. It's well up. It's doing real good. You've done well, my friends. So good job. Pat yourself on the back, my fellow stackers, my fellow precious metals enjoyers, my gold enthusiasts, my gold hawks, silver enthusiasts, all of you out there. The two go hand in hand. The two are together. Thank you, Neil Shaffron, my friend. Good to see you, man. Glad to have you back. Oh, glad to see you. Glad to have you back. Your audience isn't large, but your voice is important. Truth is treason, an empire of lies, and truth is never more important. Thanks, my friend. I didn't get into this to have a large audience. Never did. Never thought that we would. Never thought. Lives didn't exist when I started on YouTube, so I never even anticipated doing a live. I was very hesitant to ever even do a live. I didn't think it was something I'd ever want to do, or there would ever even be an audience to show up. And here we see 202 of you are, it looks like currently, and our 188 concurrent viewers now. The peak during this stream was 202. So yeah, there's 188 of you tuned in. Thank you, Phil Settle, for the super chat. Thanks for the support, my friend. Always, I appreciate it. Appreciate each and every one of you. Really do. I mean that. Mrs. Malpe does as well. It's always good to see the familiar faces and the generosity that each of you show this channel. You're sharing videos, memberships. just being a part of it and motivating. I'll tell you what, a lot of you offer pretty profound motivation and encouragement to just be better, do better, keep going, keep striving on. And that's why I do. I do it for you guys. I do it for this channel, but for you, the community itself. That's why I show up. That's why I tune in. I took a long break there, a much needed break. I was too busy. I didn't have time. I still am not going to have a tremendous amount of time to be tuning in on these. But I do it when I can, as much as I can. I promise you that. I do get here as often as I can. And again, like I said, I do it literally for each one of you. So yes, you know who you are. Every single name in this chat. Especially if you have a coin after your channel members, my Patreon members. It's this channel exists, and I continue it because you are there, because you do what you do. So thanks for being part of this channel. I mean that always. And DB, I see you, man. That's one of my favorite comments. I love seeing those. DB says, Junius, you woke me up to gold back in 2014, one of the few gold channels. Yeah, I remember you might have quipped the term, or I don't know who it was, but someone back then used to say I was the Walter Cronkite of gold. That's really the main passion this channel always had. The reason it was born, the reason I did it, the reason I started it was for that. Really spreading the word on gold. Gold and silver, sound money, money for 70 centuries, and all of the principles, the ideology of precious metals. So that's why I've done what we do here. That's why this channel exists. That's why I keep it going. That's why I can't step away, even though sometimes it would be nice to just not do it. Just not that it would be nice to not see you guys, but just to not have to read the news, to already know where it's going, the direction, and then just move on. Go prune the apple tree, go for a hike. And I still do those things. But this time with you, this time here on the channel, it is important. And I continue to dedicate a portion of my existence to it because it's part of who I am and the relationship that it's brought me with all of you. So, on that note, good friends of the channel, all of you, God bless each and every one of you. Have a good night, a good week. Keep your eye on the prize. Keep your eye on metals prices tomorrow. Keep stacking. And those of you heavy in silver, be patient. Your day's coming. And when it's going to pump, and it's going to pump hard. It's going to really move, I think. And it's going to catch up to gold. Remember where it was when gold was even 2,000, or even when it first broke 1,000. I fully expect silver to play some catch up here. And when it plays catch up, it's going to breach that 40 and 50 mark again. You're going to see all-time highs on little tiny tin. All right. Have a good night, all of you. Yeah, she said good. She said good evening earlier. She came in here and meowed to everybody.
Good job.
So everyone, have a good night and bless you all.